So my name's Carolyn Dee, and I worked for the assessing division of the finance department in town of Concord. Been here almost 32 years working, so this is kind of second nature to me, this kind of thing. And we like to inform people that if there is a particular exemption that you feel that you qualify for, please fill out an application and apply for it. It never hurts you to apply, it only hurts you not to apply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the statutory exemptions, which are the ones that are under the Massachusetts general law, and I'm going to tell you what's different about ours than other towns. And then, oops, that's okay. And then Tom's going to talk about the new Concord senior means tested property tax exemption, which was just implemented last fiscal year, fiscal 19. Voted in by the town meeting, implemented last fiscal year, so this is our second year. So he's going to talk about that. Okay, so ready. Okay, so there are a number of different exemptions that you could possibly qualify for, okay? The first one is Clause 17D. That goes to surviving spouses. It can be of any age or low to moderate income seniors. There's also Clause 22A through E, which is for veterans with a 10% or greater disability, and there's different things. I will talk about that later. The future slides will talk about each one of these. 37A is for blind, 41C is for elderly, 41A is tax deferral, Clause 18 is for very special circumstances where people qualify because of different hardship reasons. And 18A is a special tax deferral, and it's usually reserved for military who are deployed. You know, that's what it was meant for, but it can be reserved for other reasons either. And there's also the Community Preservation Act surcharge. So what the Community Preservation Act is, it is a 1.5% surcharge on your taxes that is collected every year. You'll see it on your tax bill. And it is used for the, to fund the preservation of open space. If a piece of land comes up, then the Community Preservation Committee might vote to buy that piece of land. Historic buildings, you know, things like that. It's so that they don't have to go and ask for money every time they want to buy something. But there's a committee that oversees all the requests, and they decide what is best for the town. Okay, what's that? Okay, the first one, Clause 17D. Okay. So that is open to surviving spouses, like I said, of any age, minor of deceased parents, which we don't have any who own homes here, and people who are over 70 years of age, occupying the home for at least 5 years. The exemption amount is $350. The state amount is $175, and Concord voted about, I believe it's about 10 years ago, to permanently raise each one of the state granted amounts by 100%. So we give $350 instead of $175. Your maximum whole estate can't go over $48,919. And we raise that every year by the cost of living. Whatever the cost of living increase is for the year, we will raise that amount. So it does go up a slight amount every year. Okay?
Any questions?
Yep, any questions? Please ask questions.
Okay. I think I'll have to just get handouts.
Okay, you get handouts.
What do you mean by maximum whole estate less than 48,919?
Okay, so what that means is your main house doesn't count in that, and your motor vehicles, because you already pay excise tax on your motor vehicles. It means money you have in the bank, stocks and bonds, any other homes that you own, you know, that would be included in the maximum whole estate. Like I said, your primary house and your motor vehicles don't count. Okay. The next one is for veterans. Okay, so veterans have to at least have a 10% disability or greater in order to qualify for an exemption. The amount of the exemption is $800. Like I said, we double it, $400 to $800. And you have to have lived in Massachusetts for 5 years, which I'm sure you are, and you have to get a letter from the VA only in the first year of qualifying. Do you have to get that letter to say that you at least have a 10% disability? It's kind of a given thing. You get it. If you qualify, you get it. There are different exemption There are different veterans exemptions that you could qualify. For example, clause 22D, large D, is for a surviving spouse of a veteran who has died as a result of being in a combat zone, or died as a result of combat-related injuries. 22E is for 100% disabled veterans, and the other ones we don't. We have 22A, which is, I forget what 22A is. Let me see. We don't have a lot of people that have that, so let me just find out. Oh, yeah. 22A is Congressional Medal of Honor, Navy or Air Force Cross. And we do have a few people. And I don't think we have anybody who's a B or a C in town. But so what we do is we get the applications in, we decide, like I said, if you're a veteran with 10% disability, it's kind of automatic every year. You just have to file every year. Okay, next. Okay, 37A is for blind. The exemption is $1,000, and exemption means that it's money that's taken off your tax bill. You do not have to pay it back. It's $1,000. You have to have a certificate from the Mass Association for the Blind saying that you were legally blind as of July 1st of the fiscal year. So it would be as of July 1st, 2019 for fiscal year 20. Or if it's your first year, you can also have a doctor's note that says that you have been declared legally blind for such and such period of time.
Does that count for, say, a couple where one of the persons is blind?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yep, absolutely. Couple, both of them can be blind too, you know? Yes, absolutely. So couple, one of them's blind, you fill out the application, you give me the mass, so let's say you've just been declared legally blind and you're going through the process of getting registered with the Mass Association for the Blind, then you would give me a doctor's note.
I see.
And then the next year you could give me the certificate from the Mass Association for the Blind. Okay? Okay? The next one is clause 41C. So that is for persons who are 65 or older. You have to occupy the house. All of these you have to own and occupy the property also. You have to have lived in Massachusetts for 10 years. So here's the income. So the whole estate can't go over $48,919 if you're single, $67,262 if you're married. And like I said, we raise that. The reason those numbers are kind of not whole numbers is because we raise them by the cost of living increase every year. We start with that and then we go raise that up. Exclude your main residence, exclude your motor vehicles. Your income, if you're single, can't go over $24,458. This is all for fiscal 20. And if you're married, $36,686. If granted, you get $1,000 off your tax bill. Okay?
Whole estate less than, and that includes the residence?
No.
It's impossible.
Excludes your residence.
Excludes it.
Yeah, your residence doesn't count.
Whole estate.
It means your money you have in the bank, stocks and bonds,
You'd have to be
anything. Yeah, these are rules set by the state. They haven't really raised them. So we try to help, and like I said, we raise those limits up by the cost of living every year. But you know, it's not a large amount. So, okay, next. Okay, so this is tax deferral. So tax deferral is if you decide to defer your taxes for payment at a later date. The payment rate is 4% per annum. You have to be 65, you have to have lived in Massachusetts, occupied the house, and your gross income can't go over $60,019. It's a good idea if you're struggling to pay your taxes and it's something that you want to stay in your house and you do qualify. The amount of money that you will defer over even a 10-year period is not even going to come close to what you are ultimately going to be able to sell your house for. So your house, when the deferral ends when you sell your property or you pass away and your heirs sell your property. So it's just a defer. It's just you're just putting off the payment of your taxes. But we've had people in the program for years, and they're not even close to what they could ultimately sell their house for. So if it means you are going to have money every month to pay your bills and buy essentials, it's a good idea to think about. If you don't have a mortgage on your house, It's totally up to you whether you want to defer your taxes. If you do have a mortgage on your house, you also have to get approval by the bank because they are actually the lien holders of the property. Right. But it's definitely a good a good option if you're thinking about, I can't afford to stay in this house, but I want to stay in this house. So it's definitely a good option.
Does this, Carolyn, gross income mean your income plus any investments that you might have?
No, that's just your income.
Just the income?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What were you saying right there is a good option? What?
tax deferral, clause 41A.
Oh, tax referral.
Tax deferral. So you're deferring it to a later date, till you sell your property, or you know, someone passes away and your heirs sell your property and pay back to the town what they owe.
Ultimately,
But gross income not to exceed, well, if you're retired, you're talking about income from investments?
Income from whatever source of income you have, Social Security, retirement, investments, it
Social
can't go over
Security.
60,000, yeah. So whatever your income is for the year, you know, that you're reporting on your income taxes.
Well, with me being an artist, you never know what your income's gonna be.
Right,
But
right,
I'm not even
Right.
working anymore.
right. So we would look at your income taxes, your federal and state income taxes,
Oh, yeah. Well,
And that's what we would
that be investments.
figure out, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that's what we would figure that out from. Okay?
Oh, this is just like Greek to me.
Okay, so Clause 18 and 18A are two kind of different exemptions. Clause 18 is for, it's called the infirmed, aged, and insolvent. So it's really a hardship exemption, and it's totally at the discretion of the Board of Assessors. So what you would do is you would fill out the application, you would write a letter to the board, and possibly come in and talk to them at one of their meetings, if you wanted to do that. And then they would decide what kind of exemption you would be qualified for. 18A is a deferral, and it was mainly put in place to help military families when their person was deployed overseas, but it also can help anybody. So it's basically a deferral you can defer for 3 years, and then after the 5th year, you have to start paying that money back. So if you have a temporary situation that you know is going to get better, then that might be an option. Yeah. Okay? Okay, so now let's talk about the Community Preservation Act. So like I said, that was put in place to raise money for the preservation of open space and historic buildings, etc. You can apply to get exempted from the community preservation surcharge, whatever it is, if it's $100, if it's $75, whatever. So the income limits are as follows. If there's one in your household, your income can't go over $70,840, 2 in your household, $80,960, 3, $91 and $80, and 4, $101,200. It's something, you know, at least it's something. And we have a lot of people. I think we have about 60 people that apply for it, 60 people that get it every year, fill out the application. And you get a full exemption from the community preservation surcharge. So that is something. Okay?
Now, this total amount also includes any investment that you might have?
Nope,
or
that's just income.
Just income, okay. Thank you.
Whatever's on your income tax
Yeah,
is your income.
income.
Yeah, yeah, they don't really care about what everything else is.
Yeah.
And like I said, those get raised every year also by the cost of living, so. Okay? Okay, so you have to file every year. Renewal applications are mailed in August. People that got the exemptions last year will get an application in August in the mail, and they are asked to fill it out and send it back. Due date's always April 1st. The qualification date for your age is always July 1st, and your occupancy. You have to own and occupy the property. And we might ask for copies of your tax returns for some of these, if we believe that we need that. So, and everything that you give to us is exempt from the records law. It is seen by me, Lane Partridge, who's the town assessor, and the chairman of the Board of Assessors. That's it. And everything that we vote on is in executive session, which means it can never be seen by anybody else. If someone comes in and asks for an application, we cannot give it to them. And after 3 years, we just shred the documents, so no one will ever see anything. So don't ever feel like we're broadcasting your information out there, because we're not. We can't. We're not allowed to. So we discuss it in executive session, they vote on it, and that's it. That's all that's said. So, and I always encourage people, it's, like I said, it doesn't hurt you to apply for something. It only hurts you if you don't apply for something. And if you fill out an application and it is incomplete or something, we're not going to just deny it. What we're going to do is I'm going to call you and, and ask you the information, and I'm going to help you. And if you look at the application and you say, oh, I don't think I can fill this out, then come in, we'll sit down in the conference room and we will fill it out together. Just bring your stuff. And I do that with a bunch of people. So we absolutely, there are a few of us in the office who can fill out the applications with you. We all know about it, so we encourage you to apply. Does anybody have any questions or? No? Okay, good.
Well, thank you to Carolyn for speaking to you about the statutory exemptions. Those all come from the state. And my name is Tom Matthews. I am the chair of the Concord Board of Assessors. I live at 135 Elsinore Street, right here in town. My wife and I moved here about 6 years ago. We were having our first son. We now have an 8-week-old baby. So if I yawn, I apologize. Not getting a ton of sleep. My job today is to talk to you today about the Concord Senior Means Tested Property Tax Exemption. It's a mouthful. This was voted on by the townspeople as a way to give back to help people stay in the town of Concord. And it's paid for by people like myself. It comes off of all of our taxes. So we're going to walk through it today, talk to you about the time frame, and I'm here to answer any questions for you. So Carolyn, we can go to the next slide. So as we know, the effective date was July 8th, 2017. You can see a lot of the information on here. What I'd like you to know about is that applications were mailed on April 15th to everyone that had received the exemption last year. And the process is Carolyn's team at the Board of Assessors, they do a fantastic job going through applications. So if you haven't applied for this before, please do. If you find the application to be confusing at all, just come into the office. They're really good about taking it through. And as you talk to your friends who may qualify, we definitely encourage people to come in. But the application can also be found on the website if you have family members that want to help out with this. And last year, the town of Concord was able to take $218,300 off of over 49 people's tax bills here in the town of Concord. And we're going to walk through some examples of how this happened. So we ended up having 59 applications last year. 49 were granted, 10 were denied. Most of them were denied because either the application was filled out improperly or they didn't qualify. So we'll go to the next frame, please. So I want to just cover the income part here for you. We are following the state circuit breaker for income. If you haven't filled out the state circuit breaker, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but these are the income limits. So if you're a single taxpayer, it's $58,000. Head of household, it's $73,000, and joint taxpayers is $88,000. Where we start to differ from the state is the state has a house limit of $778,000, and we've increased the house limit to $881,500. That's the median single-family house value, and that will continue to increase to keep up with what's happening here in Concord. And then we have an asset limit as part of this program, and that's $250,000, and that excludes the value of your house. So essentially, we're looking at folks who potentially have up to $881,500 and then another $250,000 of assets, which is cash, stocks, bonds, and so forth. Any questions so far? Okay, we'll move on then. So the documents needed, the only time you'll need these documents is the first time you apply. If you comply in subsequent years, we won't need all of these. We'll just need to see the updated federal tax returns. But we'll need a proof of age, so a driver's license, proof of your 10-year residency, copy of your 2018 federal tax return and state tax return. Then the Schedule CB, that's the circuit breaker. It's not part of your tax return, but it's a form that's in there. Completed application, then trust documents if the resident is held in a trust. Okay. So what we want to do, next slide, is going to tell you a little bit about the exemption amount. So the circuit breaker match, we offer that $1,100, which is what you would get if you filled out the circuit breaker. If you haven't filled out the circuit breaker, it's basically a grant program, so it's recommended that to fill that out with your tax returns. And the state does allow you to go back up to 3 years to amend taxes. So if you haven't filled out your tax returns, it's recommended to talk to a tax professional about doing a circuit breaker. But for this program, we do the $1,100 plus the excess real estate taxes that are above 10% of your income and not to exceed 50%. So this is like a mouthful. Probably looks like more like Chinese, like you were talking about earlier. So we're going to take you through a couple of examples to try and make this as clear as we can so you really understand it. So Carolyn, we'll go to the next slide, please. So this is an exemption example number 1. So we have husband and wife, income $70,000. They're filing jointly. The tax bill for 2019 was $9,933, so about a $700,000 value of the home. So we look at the max potential exemption that could qualify in the program is $4,996.50. So we want to show you how the exemption works, and we kind of walk you through the steps. So the first thing is we're going to take 10% of the income. So that's $7,000. So we're going to take the $9,933 and subtract the $7,000. So that means we're eligible right now for a $2,933 for this tax program. And then what we're going to do on the next line is we're going to take that $2,933, add the $1,100 match from the circuit breaker. So this taxpayer is going to get a $4,033 tax exemption. Okay? So the maximum that could have been potential for the 50% is the $49,000. And this particular taxpayer here in Concord will be eligible to get $4,033 off of their taxes. Does that make sense to everyone? We try to make this as clear as possible so you can really understand how the implication would be, and we hope that has been accomplished. So that's example number 1. And then we'll go to the second example. So we left a lot of parameters the same, but we wanted you to see how things would be impacted by a different income. So in this example, the income is $50,000. Same scenario, file jointly. Tax bill remained the same, so we have the max potential exemption of $4,996.50. So in this exemption, we're going to take 10% of the income, so that's $5,000. So when you subtract our tax bill minus $5,000, you're left with a residual of $4,933. So what we do is we're going to take that number and add it to the circuit breaker match of the $1,100. So in this example, it comes out to $6,033. But that is over the 50% that the townsfolk put in place with this program. So this particular taxpayer is going to get the max 50%, which is the $4,966.50. And we want to show you how these calculations work out, because people come in and they say, you know, I think based on my math, I should qualify for more than the 50%. And the answer is yes, you do qualify for more, but the way the statute is written, we can only give you 50%. Okay? So we really wanted to make this clear for you so you understand it. And so again, the tax bill can't exceed the 50%, but that's a clear example so that you have an understanding. And it's a great program. You know, I think we're eligible to give up to $400,000 a year to taxpayers. So if you have friends, if people out there who are watching this, if you think you qualify, definitely apply. Come down to the Board of Assessors. And applications are due by September 3rd of 2019. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So here's the application. As we talked about, the application is not open to public inspection. You may or may not know, but as we have committee meetings that meet once a month, those committee meetings are open to the public. Our meetings are posted, as are our minutes. So what we have is we have executive session where the board meets to discuss any exemptions that we go through. Those meetings are not open to the public. That is done in a different meeting, and those records cannot be asked for. And that's important because we want to protect your privacy. We want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable and secure in applying for these programs. So the application here, you have a copy that Carolyn has given you. We also have copies online and also over at 24 Court Lane, which is where the assessor's office is. So you can welcome to come in person. They're happy to take you through that. And we have the application date, and then inside, I think the last page, last slide of our presentation is the instructions. So if you have questions or you want to go through the instructions, those are actually inside the application that we have. So are there any questions that I can answer while I'm here? Well, then I want to thank everyone for their time.